welcome back, roommates, to another titillating edition of Alexa's.
That's not bad.
And even though Colin Albert is supposedly so restricted in his boot camp regimen that he's barely got time to take a dump and water himself, let alone speak to his own attorneys.
During basic training, they control their life from waking up to going to bed. That, like I said, the only breaks they get are sleeping and eating.
Yet he still somehow managed to find the time to speak with Gretchen Voss. That's right, folks.
Holy fucking shit, it's a dinosaur, Jesus Christ, what the fuck?
So the other day, this sun-baked Sunchip dropped another attempt at a failed hit piece titled Inside the Campaign That Acquitted Karen Reed, where she basically tries to sell the idea that the entire Free Karen Reed movement was just a sophisticated harassment campaign that was cooked up by Turtle Boy and Karen Reed, despite the science telling us
the testing's inconsistent with those types of kinematics or that type of scenario.
On what do you base that opinion, sir?
That's based on the testing that was performed, the evidence available in this case, and the kinematics of how somebody would move post-impact after being struck by an SUV.
Do you hold that opinion to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty?
I do, yes.
And about 48 hours after its publishing, it's already got 2 amendments. Now, if you don't know who Gretchen Voss is, she's a journalist, and I'll use that term very loosely, who writes for Boston Magazine. And she previously published this article. The Karen Reed case in Canton, the killing that tore a town apart. And this was published in September of 2023, so a month after that Michael Morrissey hostage video, as you all may recall. And since then, the unredacted interview notes have recently been released, which includes, but isn't limited to, Karen Reed discussing John O'Keefe's view on Chris Albert's Spawn. He's a shit. He's a fucking punk. Bang bang. Which, notably, completely contradicts what Julie Albert would describe their relationship with John O'Keefe as.
I was grieving the loss, of my friend. Like, I don't even remember. It was a scary thing to sit up there. And
I get it.
It was very, whatever.
And so to the best.
But most notably, you might recognize Etchegretch from the Rolling Rally. That led to Aidan Carney getting charged with felony picketing. Boom! You've just been microdotted. Which is very interesting considering she's also a journalist. In fact, for the people who love to say that Aidan Carney isn't a journalist, he's just a blogger, might even go so far to say that she's more of a legitimate one because she's tied to a mainstream media news publication. So if that's the case, then why isn't she being charged with witness intimidation or felony picketing like he is? And that's more of a rhetorical question. I think we can all guess why, and we'll get a little bit more into that later. Now, this is a pretty hefty read, so for the purposes of this video, we're just going to focus specifically on the 3 Häagen-Dazs defendants: Skeletor, Big Daddy Butt Dial, and Private Colon. And thanks to Jeffree Star, a lot of the new information that we learned from this article, in my opinion, only strengthens Turtle Boy and Karen Reed's civil defenses. Probably will also help with his witness intimidation case, and that is set to go to trial in the next few months, but we'll get to more of that in my next video. Now, aside from the blatantly obvious,
And that's why we're here, because there's nobody left to stand up for us.
Think real long and hard before you're a witness in a case, because no one protects you. And it's very, very sad.
it seems pretty clear what the motives are behind this hit piece. Stay protected under the Michael Morrissey administration, and so you can also keep that relationship intact, and 2, get a little bit of revenge on Aiden Carney for some of the embarrassing shit he reported on her. Like how she was once, inappropriately I would say, courted by Mr. Meat Sweat's former mouthpiece, David Traub, and seemed pretty receptive to the invitation. And also how she apparently did shrooms with a sea urchin named Krusty Panties. All in an attempt, I suppose, to try to poison the jury pool in his upcoming trial or pile on maybe more charges. I mean, it's a tale as old as any soap opera.
You didn't have a clue!
And yes, this is my pure speculation, but you have to look at the timing of all of this. I mean, just earlier this week, we had the motion to dismiss hearing in the witness intimidation case. Last week, we had the anti-SLAPP hearing in the defamation case, plus the hearing about giving back Karen Reed's telephones, which quickly became a hearing about disqualifying Robert Cosgrove.
I have to say,
Not to mention, just last month, Michael Morrissey's campaign paid $10,000 to Gretchen Voss's burger buddy, David Traub of Traub Communications, for media consulting. And again, to remind you, David Traub is no longer the Norfolk County District Attorney's official mouthpiece. But I guess he's gone independent. And thanks to Foos and Blues for posting this, 6/16/2026, 10 large ones. And I remember when this came out because everybody was wondering what the heck they needed David Traub for, right? Since he quickly stepped down, I believe, after the first trial. I could be wrong. Definitely after the second trial. It was like him and Lynn Boland just immediately disappeared into the void that is the Karen Reed galaxy of fuckery. So, if you ask me, none of this feels coincidental. And we already knew something was brewing when Aiden Carney mentioned on his live show about a month ago that she was going to be interviewing him again.
I would not talk to somebody like Gretchen Voss if this were not something I have in the works. Okay? She texted me and said she's doing a follow-up story for Boston Magazine. Supposed to come out in the August issue. Wants to know if I have comment for it. And I look at this as, fuck yeah, I have comment. I have a lot of comments.
And she, very unsurprisingly, decided not to use any of them. All right, so now that I hopefully caught you up to speed, let's take a sip of some of this new tea and see what she's lying about now. So this is how the article starts off, by introducing the story's main villain, Jennifer McCabe, and goes on to describe the now infamous Billerica, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, lacrosse game where Aiden Carney first questioned Jennifer McCabe about her 2:27 a.m. Google search, how long to die in cold, Nate Eaton style.
Why didn't you Google how long to die in cold, Jen? Why didn't you Google how long to die in cold, Jen? Do you have any answer for that?
Is that the perfect that was just...
Do you have any answer for that?
Come on,
Miss McCabe, do you have any answer for that?
And as pointed out by Boozy Beauty, make sure you give her a follow as well, and a sub up on the YouTubes. Gretch also failed to report that there are other occasions at sporting events where Jen treated other parents with complete disrespect. Below is a video of a fellow witness, Tom Beatty, who Jen called 7 times within 30 minutes on the morning of January 29th, 2022. And in the video, you can hear her tell him, "No one wants you here, Tom," who was simply trying to find a seat on the bleachers and brushed it off.
Just keep walking. Nobody wants you. Let's go, Green!
Still got everybody around you, right?
You do.
Go be by yourself.
Jen also called Tom's daughter, Erin, the morning of the 29th because her and Colin were friends at one point. I imagine not anymore after all of this. And Colin did as well, except earlier at 12:33 a.m. That timing has raised eyebrows because it would have just been a minute after John O'Keefe's phone reportedly stopped moving at 34 Fairview. Due to this, Erin was also subjected to similar harassment. Canton mothers who were upset that Erin had spoken about the missed call from Colin and who are reportedly friends of Jen, told her to be quiet and put male genitalia, I can't even say it, it's the lesbian in me, male flapping appendages in her mouth. But she's just a normal mom, right?
That's what we did when the media showed up, when Miss Reed's private investigator showed up. We just give each other the heads up, hey, somebody's coming, because we're just like normal moms. We're not used to this.
It's an experience. I just can't imagine my mom telling any of my friends, and I know this wasn't her kid's friend, but her kind of nephew, I guess. His friend, a teenager, shut the F up. You need to put a pee-pee in your mouth hole. I cannot imagine my mother saying that to any of my friends, any teenager, or any of my friends' parents saying that to me or anyone. And that's because I believe these people who claim to be just normal moms and normal dads have the same emotional maturity that their children have. They all think, speak, and operate like teenagers. And they think that conduct is acceptable. And then from the public records requests from the Trial 1 sidebars that were released several months ago, which are private communications between the attorneys and Beverly Canola Oil outside the presence of the jury. And during one of those sidebars, Alan Jackson had raised an incident involving Jen, and another witness, Karina Kolakithis. You might recall from the first trial, who was at, I believe, one of the bars, C.F. McCarthy's or Waterfall, and had a very brief interaction with Karen Reed, John O'Keefe, etc. He told Judge Cannone that he viewed Jen's conduct as a threat toward Karina. After the public saw the sidebar transcript, women who openly support Jennifer McCabe posted private text messages between Karina and another friend of Jen's from the days immediately following John O'Keefe's death. And in those messages, Karina was questioning how any of this could have happened. The women who posted them attempted to frame the texts as proof that Karina could not be trusted and that she was a flip-flopper. And even to this day, these women post similar verbiage. And lo and behold, what do you know? Meg Kennedy has entered the chat on Wednesday, and this was sent from Teletully. On Wednesday, February 19th, 2025, I, Lieutenant Brian Teletully, received a phone call from Meg Kennedy. She stated she watched the testimony of Karina Kolakithis at the trial, Commonwealth First Read, last year. Meg stated she was friends with Karina in 2022. She stated she has text messages between her and Karina that contradict Karina's testimony during the trial. The text messages are from the week following John's death. On the same date, I received an email from Meggles with 22 screenshots of text messages. See attached. Now, I did a video a little while ago on Meg Kennedy's ride or die relationship with her bestie Jen McCabe, as well as her potential connection to Michael Proctor via her husband, Larry Kennedy, who you may recall from one of Big Bear's big gay white supremacist group chats. And here is the text exchange between Meggles and Karina that have been circulating around. Karina goes, "Yep, horrible. Honestly, it's shocking. So shocking," Meggles says. "She was so nice." Obviously not. Meggles goes, "Psycho. Clearly, he must have known it too. I told you I found her to be manic." "Yes, you did. You sleeping? He must have known that she was psycho. This must not be a new thing." I heard she sent texts earlier to someone saying he was being a jerk and she might be going out alone. She may have shown up at bar where he was uninvited when she went to McCarthy's. Yes, I'm guessing, but who knows? There must be text. He has to be. I knew that morning thing was a show she did. I just couldn't believe she would do that, or another woman. That would piss her off. So I'm guessing the theory is, oh, she killed him over him banging someone else. And as someone who probably isn't like super close friends with Karen Reed, and was obviously closer to John O'Keefe, would probably just trying to make sense of everything, just like everybody else was. And you're only getting half truths, half stories here and there. And none of it really seems to make any sense. And compared to how close you are to all of these other people, of course you're going to take the word of the people that you're closest to first before you start thinking rationally and saying, wait a minute, this doesn't make a sense. So I can believe that she changed her mind. You're allowed to do that. That's not illegal. You're allowed to have one opinion and change it over time as more information presents itself. So if you want to get to know Sandra Birchmore's apparent former guidance counselor, I will link that video in my show notes so you can go check it out after you exit this video. All right, back to this. On April 22nd, Aidan Carney, using the Canton Police Department's incident report, which the defense had recently filed unredacted against court rules with the witnesses' personal information, called McCabe and Brian Albert while live streaming and accused them of covering up John O'Keefe's unaliving. He claimed McCabe was banging Albert, her sister's husband. I mean, that's been going around the rumor mill for a hot, steamy meatball minute. So then he showed images of that unredacted report on the live stream. His thousands of viewers now had the witnesses' private telephone numbers, addresses, and social security numbers. This would be the perfect time to slot in a VPN sponsor. You also realize that most people who have any sort of mobile device or purchase anything online, whether on their phone or on a laptop, have already given their bank details and personal private information to a Shopify store for a $30 Yeti cup, right? Like, anyone can hack into your shit regardless. That's why you should get NordVPN. No, I'm kidding. So now we got a quote from Big Daddy Buttdial. Brian says he was tag teamed by three federal prosecutors: Levy, Deitch, and Chow. "I do not rile easily," Brian says, "and I was freaking distraught." His wife, Coco, sister of Jennifer McMoobs, and McMoobs' daughter, Allie, were also reduced to tears by the hostile questioning during their own testimonies. Oh, but not Jen. She's no woman, no cry, right? I guess that's because she was apparently Adam Deitch's little star witness. And shout out to Girl with an Eel Eye on the Twitter X's. So this was from Jen McCabe's declaration in opposition to motions to dismiss, addressing the DOJ grand jury proceedings that involved Mr. Adam Deitch, saying, quote, "On June 8th, 2023, I testified before a federal grand jury regarding the events of January 28 and 29, 2022. During those proceedings, I was questioned by acting United States Attorney Joshua Levy and Assistant United States Attorney Adam Deitch. Following my testimony, both Mr. Levy and Mr. Deitch walked me down a hallway into a room where my attorney was waiting. We were in the hallway. Mr. Levy apologized to me for having to go through the federal grand jury process and informed me that I was a great witness. Mr. Levy then repeated his comments to my attorney when we arrived in the waiting room. Oh, so it wasn't Adam Deitch who said that. It was Josh Levy. I'll take that for things that probably never happened for $500, Alex. I have never been the target of any FBI investigation, nor have I ever been indicted, charged, or prosecuted for anything related to the death of Officer O'Keefe, my friend, the guy. Where's my cross? Jen was just the target of the tooth fairy, I guess. Meanwhile, the existence of the federal case only amplified the harassment of the witnesses and was used to legitimize it with disastrous effects. McCabe says she reached out to the U.S. Attorney's Office multiple times, telling them one of her daughters had become self-harming and had spent 3 months in a partial mental health program. She got no response. Bitch, I'm not trying to sound heartless, but I've spent years in therapy, as have many other young people, especially in the age of social media. I've been groomed, I've been essayed, I've had eating disorders, the whole millennial starter pack. Who the fuck cares? You're not special. You're not. That's why they created shows like 13 Reasons Why. And there's so many cases of kids self-harming. Like, it's sad. Of course it's sad. And that's terrible if that's true. But maybe don't lie in a murder trial. Maybe don't lie about picking up, dropping off your best friend, cousin, Colin. Maybe don't do that. Just because your family asks you to do something doesn't mean you lose all agency and you can't make up your mind or make your own decisions. You can say no. You can cut off toxic family members and say, you know what? I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to be the respected member of my family and tell the truth. How about that? Stop weaponizing your daughter's shitty mental health and also publicizing it in an article where you know thousands of people are going to be reading about. People don't need to know about that. So then we get a quote from Chris Maitai, who says this operation to assassinate the character of innocent witnesses has caused incalculable harm, subjecting them to a daily tidal wave of hatred, harassment, and intimidation. He says, while the damage to them has been catastrophic. How? Jen's going to Aruba. Reed's and Carney's lies, which were amplified by a vigorous public relations campaign, have also poisoned the community's cohesion, tainted the criminal prosecution of Reed, and deprived the O'Keefe family and the Commonwealth of... Why does the Commonwealth need justice? The Commonwealth doesn't need justice. It's their job to get justice. And they failed. They terribly failed. Also, isn't Jen McCabe like a stay-at-home mom now? She's no longer working because Matt McMoobs makes like $500,000 a year or something. At least a decent chunk of change with his own tech security or tech firm. So life can't be that bad. You can still catch a tan. You got a new tooth, for God's sake. In fact, everybody was actually mentioning how you had a little bit of a glow up for trial 2. And not for nothing, and this isn't a slight at Turtle Boy at all, but he's like doing like local, low-key vacation. She's flying to like the Sandals Resort. He's not exactly sailing the 7 seas. He's spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on legal fees, which I can't even imagine the financial stress. Not to mention he has kids. and other bills like a mortgage and all of that. So if anybody has had catastrophic damage, it's been him. Trying to prevent him from blogging about you and writing articles is damage, is preventing him from making a living. Because that's how he makes a living. He writes articles about people who do shitty things and need to be exposed for it. The witnesses had stayed mostly quiet through the investigation, both trials and years of harassment. At the fundraiser that night, McCabe stood before the crowd of 400 and spoke. We trusted the process, we trusted the system, and we believed if we told the truth and endured, that would be enough, she said. We were quiet when quiet was right. This time, we're not whispering. Wasn't the max capacity to that event like 180? 400 feels a little ambitious for a Krusty-sponsored event at a Red Roof Inn. And Brian Albert was also apparently in attendance for this white supremacist rally where he gave this heartwarming speech to the alt-right crowd, met with thunderous applause as he took to the microphone. This three-pronged attack was executed with military precision, because I was in the military, right? It consisted of a vicious and unscrupulous defense team, an army of social media lunatics, and a highly unusual and unprecedented federal investigation, all coalescing, in my opinion, for the common goal of influencing the outcome of this case. Yes, they all conspired against you, Brian, against you, Big Daddy Butt Dial. The system, he said, failed them at every turn. They allowed us to be lambs for the slaughter. It's the worst thing I've ever experienced, and that's saying a lot because I've seen a lot. I've seen the worst humanity has to offer. That's a cold motherfucker. Big Daddy Butt Dial also goes on to express how the federal government treated him as a suspect. It was very aggressive. I was not in there as a witness. I was in there as a suspect. That was the first time that anybody of any importance was insinuating that. Which is a problem because everybody should have been treating you as at least a person of interest. From day one, it was your fucking house. It was your fucking front yard. It wasn't Karen Reed's front yard. It was your front yard, dude. It was your house that he was going to. So the fact that you're saying right here that you had never been insinuated or treated like a suspect or a person of interest should be deeply concerning to you as a former Boston police officer, and just further proves the point that Michael and his prostate shouldn't have been the lead customer service representative on this case.
Do you find that to be odd, considering the fact that the nature of your relationship is being spoken about in open court and in the media?
So in retrospect, I would say I wish that somebody had asked me, but we're only here because of some defense attorneys trying to drum up some relationships that don't exist. For me, that's my belief.
The Free Karen Readers, that's a new one, followed and confronted them showing up at Caitlin Albert's wedding in New Hampshire. No, Gretchen. These were the people who showed up to Caitlin Albert's wedding. To the brick watch guy. Fox News. Look how happy Big Daddy Butt Dial looks. Caitlin Albert was still able to get married. I'm sure he was still able to pay for his little precious angel's wedding to the brick watch guy. And Jen, who just happened to be perfectly posed and poised for this confrontation from Fox Digital. This article came out last year after the trial on July 13th, 2025 by Michael Ruiz, and I made a whole video about it, so I will link that below as well if I can dig it out. of the playlist history, but it's definitely in the Karen Reed playlist. And look, I'm not saying that there aren't crazy people out there who follow Turtle Boy, who probably follow my content as well too, and other people's, right, who might be on the right side of the movement, if you will. But that's hardly his fault. He can't control like 160,000 or so people who follow him on YouTube and so on and so forth. They act like he's this cult leader and we're all just his little foot soldiers who have no free will or autonomy over our own decision making, and we must do his bidding. Oh, master. Ah. It's like blaming J.D. Salinger for some psychopath reading Catcher in the Rye and interpreting it as a message to
kill John Lennon! Hey, Dad, where does John Lennon live?
John Lennon's dead, Butters.
Ah, dang it.
All right, so now let's give Brian Albert's nephew a butt dial. Paging Private Colin, who now kind of looks like the poster boy for the extreme alt-right, and showed up to the grand jury proceeding, which we're about to get to in a minute, with bloodied knuckles.
Remember the question about the condition of your fist? Literally at the hearing?
Yeah.
It was obvious to the person that was questioning you that you had an injury to your fist, correct?
Objection.
So this is the first time we're really getting any insight into what the feds' theory of what they believe actually happened to John O'Keefe is, which is essentially, Turtle Boy was right. Did you unalive John O'Keefe? Colin Albert says Adam Deitch, who is one of the candidates for Norfolk County DA. Make sure you go out and vote if that is the county you live in for Adam Deitch. Apparently yelled at him. No, he replied, shocked, horror. Tell us the truth. So even the feds believe that you unalived John O'Keefe. If that is a real question that you were asked at this proceeding, that just once again proves that Turtle Boy was right. Take that for coded language. What's even scarier to think about is the fact that the United States federal government believes that Colin Albert may have very well unalived and gotten away with it a Boston police officer, and now he's cosplaying as a military man, getting military-style training, and have access to some of the most dangerous weapons in the world. How is that not concerning to anyone? That terrifies me. Colin recalls, 19 years old and recently finished with his freshman year at Bridgewater State, where he played football. He says he didn't understand why he was there. This entire article reads like a 19-year-old wrote it, Gretchen. You just know that she microdosed before, during, and after writing this thing. Colin's lawyer was not allowed inside the small square room where rows of jurors faced out. Yeah, because nobody's attorney is allowed inside these grand jury proceedings. It's just you, the jury, and the attorneys. Like that. That's not like some special case like, oh, he was deprived of counsel. It's everybody. So Colin didn't understand why he was even there, even though the men in black already paid him a visit at his college, and he was smart enough to bring his lawyer to this proceeding, who was waiting for him in the waiting room like a good boy with a Capri Sun and a packet of cookies for him when he came back. Behind Colin's shoulder, Carney's tweets and blogs were projected onto a screen, Colin says, which again, I guess Plevin was right too. Now we have to say Plevin was right as well, because I think that was something that he had reported on, which means that somebody had leaked that information to him. Every single thing came from him. They didn't use anything else, nothing else, Colin tells me, noting that they didn't even bother to take Carney's name off the screenshots. Why would they? Eventually, they accused me of every single thing Carney said. They also projected Colin says the same pictures Carney had published on his blog. Colin playing football, Colin at a wedding when he was a young boy, Colin's bloody knuckles. Those pictures, according to Carney's phone extraction, had originated with Reed, who had found them while trolling Facebook late at night, so on social media, which anybody can have access to. If you don't want people to find things, don't post them on social media. According to Colin, the material federal prosecutors put before the grand jury had in significant part originated with Carney, which he didn't know at the time was that Carney had received it from Reed. But you realize, like, they wouldn't be presenting Aidan Carney's work to you as evidence if they didn't think there was some kind of truth behind it. The picture of you in a wedding as a young boy establishes your connection to the Proctor family. The Proctor, Michael and his prostate, being the lead customer service representative in this case. Kind of a big deal. Kind of important. Bloodied knuckles, the timeliness of that. Isn't that how Watergate worked? Investigators used reporting to map out everything and then issued subpoenas based on that because there had to have been some truth behind what was being reported. But it's so shocking that the feds can use the internet too. After hours of confrontational, combative questioning, Colin asked for a break. Went back into the small room where his attorney waited and broke down. When it was all over, he broke down again in his fascist car. I couldn't stop shaking. I couldn't even speak. Well, speaking seems to be an issue for you on a regular basis anyways, so I was like, what the fuck did they do to me in there? So he asked for a hydration break a la Michael Proctor because Adam Deitch and Josh Levy asked him some really hard questions. Then had an apparent meltdown in the waiting room, and then again in Papa Chris's car. You honestly think he just got waterboarded. And the harassment continued, and it got so bad that Colin says he was forced to quit playing football and give up his lifelong dream of playing in college as a result of the harassment from Carney and his foot soldiers. He is now enrolled in the U.S. Army. Some might say that's a glow up. I highly doubt he was ever going to get recruited for the SEC. Realistically, his only options were probably take over the family slop shop, which somehow is still in business despite destroying people's stomach lining on a daily basis, but I digress. Or maybe becoming an Uber or Lyft driver, I don't know. You can't convince me this Nimrod was ever going to contribute anything meaningful to society.
Let's destroy them all. Cheers. It off.
Fuck you and your fucking mom, dude.
Yep.
Fuck you.
Facts.
Who chugs an espresso martini, by the way? John Taffer would have an aneurysm. But you know what? I take all of what I said back before. He should have considered bartending school. So as you can see from just the little bit, ironically, that we went over in this article, it's a comedy of errors, and there's so much more that we have yet to dive in. So hopefully I'll be able to get my next video out to you as soon as, but it just amazes me that Colin has the time to sit down with this journalist, this blogger, Gretchen Voss, but can't seem to find the time out of his busy schedule to reschedule his deposition. Like, is Judge Gilday gonna make a big deal out of this? Probably not. Is he gonna chastise Night at the Tuxbury Chris Mai Tai for it? Probably not. Probably not. He has a big problem with social media and publicity around this case. Camry going on the Today Show. Well, what about Boston Magazine there, Judge? Huh? So I guess we'll see, but if you enjoyed today's content, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next video from me. Make sure you hit that like button or hype button, because that tells the YouTube algorithm I should continue to create more dreadful videos like this for you. So thank you all so much for watching, and until next time.
And how would you characterize what you've done for this trial?
I'd like to think I've shined a spotlight on it, you know, with my journalism and my activism with this. I've exposed several lies that the district attorney has, put out there. And like, for instance, speaking with Lucky Loughran, who is a major witness for the defense in this case, I interviewed him before the state police did. I found him. I found the plow driver who didn't see a body at 2:30 when he went by, who saw a Ford Edge. I found him when the state police couldn't.